I didn't know I was hurting myself every day. I was 61 when I first started noticing that something felt off. It wasn't anything drastic or dramatic, just subtle shifts. I'd wake up more tired than when I went to bed. My knees ached before noon. I had trouble remembering names or where I left my reading glasses. I blamed it on just getting older, like most of us do, but something in me knew this wasn't normal aging. It was something else. My routine back then was painfully simple. Wake up, scroll my phone while lying in bed, skip breakfast, maybe have some black coffee, then sit in my recliner for hours watching the news. I wasn't lazy. I just thought I was taking it easy after retirement. I thought I earned it. I didn't. Realize I was slowly building a lifestyle that was quietly poisoning me. The unseen impact one day, I had a routine doctor's checkup. Nothing major, just my annual physical. The results hit me harder than I expected. My blood pressure had crept up. My cholesterol was edging into dangerous territory. I had gained more weight around my middle than I'd noticed. And my doctor casually asked me if I'd been feeling a little foggy lately. I nodded without thinking, and that's when it hit me. Yes, I had been, but I hadn't talked about it to anyone. I thought it was normal. Turns out, it was preventable. She looked me straight in the eye and said, "Most of the damage people see after 60 doesn't come from big diseases. It comes from small daily habits done over and over again." I went home that day disturbed. I looked at my life differently for the first time in years. I saw a routine filled with quiet killers. No movement, poor food choices, chronic sitting, digital distractions, and stress I hadn't addressed, and I realized something even scarier. I didn't feel bad enough to make a change. That's the real danger. These habits sneak in. They don't scream, they whisper. Comfort is a slow killer. One of the most dangerous lies I told myself was this: "You've worked hard. Now you can relax." But comfort became my trap. I thought resting all day was good for my health. That's what I believed for decades. But I later learned that the less I moved, the faster I declined. Muscles weakened, joints stiffened, my posture collapsed. Even my mind slowed down. I confused inactivity with peace. I thought not stressing meant not engaging. I thought skipping meals meant staying thin. I thought ignoring my problems meant they'd go away. But all it did was quietly chip away at my health. The realization that changed everything. What finally woke me up wasn't just the doctor's warning. It was a moment in the mirror. I was brushing my teeth one morning, and I caught my own eyes in the reflection. They looked tired, dull, lost. That wasn't me. That wasn't the man I remembered. I used to be full of energy, curiosity, and purpose. Realized I'd surrendered myself to a lifestyle that didn't care about my future, and I had no one to blame but me. That morning, I promised myself something. I won't live out the rest of my life shrinking. I was determined to break the chain, those tiny habits adding up to something deadly. But before I could fix anything, I had to identify exactly which habits were destroying me. A sneak peek at what's coming. Over the following months, I began paying attention to my energy, my mood, my pain, and my memory. I started connecting the dots between what I did each day and how I felt. What I found shocked me. There were certain habits I never thought twice about, things I'd done for years, that were slowly wearing me down from the inside. In the next part of this story, I'll walk you through each of these silent traps, what they looked like in my daily life, and the shocking health consequences I didn't see coming until it was almost too late. The silent traps that almost took my health. You'd think that after living more than 6 decades, I'd have figured out how to take care of myself. But no one ever warned me about the silent traps, the everyday choices that seem harmless, but are quietly shaving years off your life. I'm not talking about smoking or drinking. I gave those up years ago. These traps are more subtle, more deceptive, and far more common than anyone wants to admit. Let me walk you through the ones that nearly did me in, one by one. Trap number 1. Sitting for too long. I thought sitting was rest. I thought it was part of retirement. I had earned it, right? But what? I didn't realize is that extended sitting is the new smoking. My average day looked something like this. Wake up, sit in the recliner with coffee, move to the sofa for the news, maybe eat lunch at the table, then back to the recliner, then TV at night. If I walked 2,000 steps, that was a big day. What was the result? My lower back started to stiffen. My hips lost flexibility. My balance worsened. I lost muscle mass without even realizing it. Worse still, I started sleeping poorly because my body was never physically tired. My blood sugar spiked more often, and I began craving carbs for energy. That cycle was brutal, and I didn't even know it was happening. Trap number 2. Skipping breakfast or eating empty meals. I've always been the coffee and go type in the morning. After retirement, go was just moving from the kitchen to the recliner. I used to skip breakfast or eat toast with jam, something quick and easy. But when I started tracking my energy, I realized I was crashing mid-morning every day. I had brain fog by 10 a.m. My memory got worse. I felt sluggish, and even simple tasks felt overwhelming. Eventually, I learned that after 60, our bodies need high-quality fuel first thing in the morning. Protein, healthy fats, fiber. Not sugary cereals or plain toast. Now I eat scrambled eggs, avocado, and some berries, or Greek yogurt with seeds and oats. The change in my alertness and energy was almost instant. And that fog? It finally lifted. Trap number 3. Drinking. Too little water. You'd be surprised how often I confused dehydration with aging. My joints ached, my head hurt, my skin looked dull, and my digestion slowed. I chalked it up to getting old. Turns out I was just dry. After age 60, our thirst reflex weakens. We don't feel thirsty until we're already dehydrated, and the impact is massive on the kidneys, the brain, the heart, and even the skin. I used to drink maybe 2 cups of water a day, if that. Now I aim for 6 to 8, and the difference is real. My digestion improved, I feel lighter, and even my skin looks more alive. Trap number 4, ignoring stress. This one was sneaky. I wasn't working anymore, so I thought I had no stress. But retirement brings its own set of emotional traps. Loneliness, boredom, loss of purpose. I kept all that bottled inside. I didn't realize that chronic stress doesn't always feel dramatic. Sometimes it just shows up as irritation, forgetfulness, trouble sleeping, or that vague feeling of being off. Stress was eating me from the inside, quietly elevating my cortisol levels and damaging my heart, immune system, and memory. So I started journaling. I took up slow breathing techniques. And I opened up to friends more often. Emotional maintenance is now part of my daily health practice, just like brushing my teeth. Trap number 5, neglecting strength training. This one might surprise you. I used to think walking was enough, but I was losing strength. I couldn't open jars as easily. Getting up from low chairs got harder. Climbing stairs left me winded. I didn't realize I was experiencing sarcopenia, age-related muscle loss. And if you don't fight it, it wins. Now I do light strength training 3 times a week. Nothing fancy, just resistance bands, bodyweight squats, and simple dumbbell work. I feel stronger, steadier, and more alive. The worst part. I didn't know any of this. That's what makes these traps so dangerous. No one tells you. They don't come with warnings. They feel like harmless routines. But over time, they build a slow road to disease, depression, and decline. I wasn't lazy. I wasn't careless. I was simply unaware. And once I became aware, I couldn't look away. How I kept falling into them. What makes these traps hard to escape is that they're baked into how we live. Our homes are designed for sitting. Our food is designed for convenience. Our routines are designed around doing less, not doing better. So I had to redesign my daily life, one small habit at a time, not overnight, not all at once, but with focus, commitment, and most importantly, awareness. And that leads to the next part of my story. What's coming next? In the next section, I'll share the moment that snapped me out of autopilot, the wake-up call that made me stop, just existing and start truly living again. You'll hear about the scare that shook me, the truth I couldn't unsee, and the emotional pivot that helped me turn my habits and my health around. The turning point. What woke me up? For months, maybe years, I lived in a kind of fog, not just mentally, but emotionally. Every day felt like a soft decline. Subtle aches, low energy, memory slips, that constant sense that I was aging faster than I should be. And then came the moment that woke me up. It was an ordinary Tuesday morning, nothing special about it. I bent down to tie my shoe and suddenly I couldn't stand back up. My back had seized. It felt like a bolt of lightning shot down my spine, and for several minutes I was frozen. Eventually, I reached for the couch, sat down, and waited for the pain to ease. I told myself it was just a pulled muscle, but deep down, I knew something else was happening. That day, everything changed. The doctor's words hit me like a truck. I went to see my doctor a few days later, still walking stiffly. After some scans and blood work, he sat me down and said, "You're not in danger right now, but you're on a path that could lead you there." He didn't sugarcoat it. My bone density had dropped significantly. My blood sugar was edging into pre-diabetic territory. I had borderline high blood pressure, and my muscle mass? Lower than it should have been for someone my age. He looked me square in the eye and said, "You're not dying, but you're fading." Those words stuck in my head. Not dying, but fading. What a haunting way to describe a life. I couldn't ignore the signs anymore. That night, I sat at my kitchen table staring into a cup of lukewarm tea, wondering how I'd let things slide this far. I wasn't reckless. I wasn't unhealthy. On the surface, I didn't smoke. I barely drank. I took my vitamins. But the truth is, I was on autopilot. I was living reactively, not proactively, responding to life instead of designing it, drifting through the days rather than driving them. I realized that old age wasn't just something that happened. It was something I was either resisting or surrendering to every single day. And slowly, I had been surrendering. The mirror. Wasn't lying. The next morning, I looked at myself in the mirror. Really looked. The man staring back at me looked tired. His shoulders drooped. His eyes seemed foggy. There was a sadness around the mouth, like he'd forgotten how to smile without effort. And in that moment, something shifted. I remembered the younger me, strong, lively, full of ideas and mischief and purpose. Where had he gone? Was he still in there? That was the question that ignited a fire I hadn't felt in years. I made a promise to myself. I took out an old journal, dusty, almost forgotten, and I wrote a promise. From this day forward, I will not fade. I will not surrender to decay. I will fight gracefully, deliberately, and joyfully against the slow death of complacency. It wasn't just about staying alive. It was about staying awake, staying sharp, feeling fully alive even at 60, 70, 80, or beyond. And that journal became my blueprint. The mind shift from survival to revival, I began to see things differently. Where, once I saw aging as a loss, now I saw it as an invitation, a second chance to do life smarter, slower, and more meaningfully. I didn't need to run marathons or look 40 again. I just needed to protect my mind, my body, and my spirit, not for vanity, not out of fear, but out of respect, for the years I still had left. I started small. But I didn't overhaul my life overnight. That kind of change never sticks. Instead, I made one small change per week. Week 1. I committed to walking 15 minutes every morning. Week 2. I swapped sugary cereal for a high-protein breakfast. Week 3. I started strength exercises with light dumbbells. Week 4. I replaced my nightly TV binge with reading or journaling. Week 5. I scheduled lunch with a friend to beat loneliness. Bit by bit, I felt stronger, brighter, clearer. The cloud began to lift. I spoke openly and found I wasn't alone one. Of the best things I did was start talking, really talking. I called up old friends. I told them what I was going through. And to my surprise, they were feeling the same things. The aches, the emotional dips, the fear of becoming irrelevant, the subtle regret of not acting sooner. Together, we formed an informal vitality circle. Just a few seniors determined to age better on purpose. We shared tips, encouraged each other, and reminded ourselves that it's never too late to fight back. The compass had shifted. I was no longer chasing youth. I was chasing vitality, meaning sharpness and joy. And the biggest change wasn't in my muscles or blood work, it was in my mindset. I stopped believing that aging was the beginning of the end. Instead, I saw it as the beginning of what could be my best chapter yet. That realization became my North Star. What's next in the next section? I'll share exactly how I rebuilt my daily life, my new rules for staying alive and thriving, from how I design my mornings to how I guard my sleep, connect with others, and keep learning. I'll give you the blueprint that has helped me reclaim not just my health, but my joy. My new rules for staying alive and thriving. After the wake-up call that shook me out of my sleepwalking state, I knew I couldn't rely on motivation alone to keep me going. Motivation fades, excuses creep in, but rules, clear, simple, personal rules, they keep you grounded. And that's exactly what I created for myself. This section is all about the framework I built to protect and enhance my life after 60. These are the rules I live by now, and they've become my anchor in a world that often feels like it's drifting. Let me take you inside the new life I've built. One ritual, one mindset, one choice at a time. Rule 1. Own the first hour of my day. I used to wake up and immediately check my phone. Emails, news, texts, all screaming for my attention. I didn't realize it at the time, but it was setting my nervous system on fire first thing in the morning. So now my rule is simple. No phone for the first hour. Instead, here's what I do. I sit in silence for a few minutes. No talking, no planning. Just breathing and being. I drink a full glass of water with lemon to hydrate after the night's sleep. I stretch gently, especially my hips and shoulders, which tend to stiffen overnight. I write in my journal. Nothing fancy. Just a few lines. What I'm feeling, what I'm grateful for, what I want to focus on. This hour is mine. And by owning it, I set the tone for the rest of the day. Calm, present, intentional. Rule 2. Fuel my body like I respect it. There was a time I'd eat whatever was easy, cereal, pastries, frozen meals, fried snacks. They gave quick satisfaction, but robbed me of energy and clarity. Now I treat food as fuel, not punishment, not entertainment, but respect. Here's how I changed it. Protein first. Every meal has to include lean protein. Eggs, chicken, lentils, Greek yogurt. Sugar is a treat, not a staple. I don't ban sweets, I just don't let them drive. Fiber matters. My gut, my mood, my sleep, everything's better with fiber-rich foods like oats, berries, and greens. Water, every hour. I set a small reminder to sip throughout the day. It wasn't about dieting. It was about honoring my body with what it truly needed. Rule 3. Move every single day. even just 10 minutes. There was a time I believed working out meant going to the gym, sweating for an hour, and pushing myself to exhaustion. But that belief kept me doing nothing. I reframed it entirely. Now, my rule is, never let a day go by without movement. Some days that's a 3-mile walk around the lake. Other days it's 5 minutes of stretching while listening to classical music. Sometimes I dance in the living room like nobody's watching, and they better not be. The point is to keep my body in motion. Motion equals life. And life is too precious to be still for too long. Rule 4. Stimulate my mind. Daily, one of the sneakiest killers after 60 isn't disease. It's stagnation. When we stop learning, we start shrinking, mentally and emotionally. I was determined not to let that happen. So I created a daily ritual of mental stimulation. I read every single day, even if it's just 10 pages. I teach myself something new every month, a new recipe, a language app, a piece of tech. I play games that challenge my brain, crosswords, chess, logic puzzles. I write. Even if no one sees it, the act of putting thoughts into words keeps my mind sharp. We don't lose our mental edge overnight. We lose it gradually when we stop using it. So now, I use mine. Every day. Rule 5. Speak to someone who matters. Daily. This one's deceptively simple, but it saved my emotional life. After retirement, I noticed how easy it was to go days without meaningful conversation. That silence? It's not peaceful. It's isolating. And isolation, I learned, can be as deadly as smoking. So now every day I connect. It might be a 10-minute call with my daughter, a lunch with an old friend, chatting with my neighbor over coffee sending, a thoughtful voice message. The rule is speak to someone who matters every day because we're not meant to age in silence. We're meant to age in connection. Rule 6. Guard my sleep like it's sacred. I used to laugh off poor sleep. I'll sleep when I'm dead, I'd say. Then I realized poor sleep was rushing me toward that end. Now, sleep is non-negotiable. Here's what I've done. No screens an hour before bed. Keep my room cool and completely dark. Stick to a bedtime. Even on weekends, listen to calming music or do breathing exercises to unwind. Good sleep makes everything better. My mood, my memory, my body's ability to repair itself. It's the cheapest, most powerful medicine I have. Rule 7. Make peace daily. With myself and the world, regret, resentment, shame, those things age you faster than anything else. I've carried all of them. But now I make it a point to release what doesn't serve me. Before I sleep, I ask myself, did I forgive someone today? Did I forgive myself for something? Did I let go of anything I can't control? I don't always succeed, but I always try. Inner peace isn't a destination. It's a decision, one I now make every single day. Why these rules? Work because they're mine. They're not based on trends or fads. They're rooted in what I've learned through pain, reflection, and trial and error. They're not extreme, but they're consistent. And most importantly, they make me feel alive. What's coming next? In the final section, I'll share what I wish every senior could know before it's too late. The reflections I've gathered, the moments that brought tears to my eyes, the insights that could save someone else's years before they slip away. If you're over 60, this next part may be the most important one yet. What I wish every senior knew before it's too late. If I could go back and whisper one truth into the ear of my younger self, just one, it would be this. You don't get old by surprise. You age by habit. Most people think aging is just something that happens to you. Wrinkles show up, joints get stiff, you forget where you put the keys. Then one day, you're sitting in a waiting room while a doctor reads your chart with a concerned look. But it's not sudden. It's slow, subtle, silent. And most of us don't notice we're doing it wrong. until it's nearly too late. So, in this final section, I want to give you a gift. The distilled truths I've learned after years of ignoring, correcting, and finally respecting my body and mind after 60. These aren't tips, they're truths, and I hope they reach you in time. Truth number 1. Health starts in your head. We think health begins with food or exercise or supplements, but it actually begins with what we believe about aging. For most of my life, I believed aging meant decline. I thought it was normal to get slower, sadder, and sicker, so I acted like someone who was already old. I stopped dreaming. I stopped challenging myself. I stopped believing in transformation. That belief system nearly aged me into the grave. Then, I discovered the power of neuroplasticity, the idea that your brain can change at any age, that joy, memory, resilience, and growth are still available, but only if you believe they are. Now, I treat every day like my brain is still learning how to live, and it is. Truth number 2. Prevention is more powerful than any prescription I used. To wait for something to go wrong before I did anything right. High blood pressure? Start pills, diabetes warning, start dieting, back pain, get injections. It was always reaction, never prevention, but I now know this. Almost every major disease we fear can be delayed or even prevented by daily lifestyle choices. A 20-minute walk a day can reduce Alzheimer's risk. Swapping soda for water lowers your heart attack risk. Managing stress through breathwork can balance hormones and lower inflammation. The trick is, you must start before you think you need to. Your body whispers before it screams. Listen while it's whispering. Truth number 3. You can't outlive loneliness. Here's a fact I learned the hard way. Loneliness is more dangerous than obesity, alcoholism, or chain smoking. For years, I believed I didn't need much connection. I had my routines, my hobbies, my memories. I thought that was enough. Then came the silence, the kind that echoes. No one to check in on me, no one to share small joys with, no one to remind me I mattered. I now make connection a non-negotiable part of my health. I host tea once a week with neighbors. I joined a local storytelling group. I check in on 2 people every morning. Sometimes it's just a text, but it keeps the world feeling close. If you want to live long, you need people. Because love and laughter do what medicine can't. Truth number 4. Your habits are your inheritance. I used to think genetics would decide my fate. My father had heart problems. My mother had diabetes. It's in the family, I'd say. But science tells us, genetics load the gun, habits pull the trigger. What you do every day either activates or quiets those genes. So, I changed the way I looked at inheritance. I stopped using it as a sentence and started using it as a signal. I started walking because my father didn't. I stopped sugar because my mother couldn't. I became my own experiment, my own doctor, my own advocate. If you're over 60, your body's still listening. It responds, it heals, but you have to give it a reason to. Truth number 5, time isn't running out. Focus eyesight used to feel panic when I looked at the calendar. Every birthday felt like a reminder that time was slipping away. But one day, someone asked me, "Are you afraid of running out of time, or are you afraid of wasting it?" That hit me like a thunderclap, because it wasn't about the number of years left. It was about how I was spending them. I had time. I just didn't have clarity or courage. So I sat down and wrote what mattered to me. Not vague ideas, real things. I wanted to learn to paint. I wanted to tell my grandson stories about my childhood. I wanted to wake up feeling proud of my choices. And I've been working on those things ever since, because when you stop being distracted, time slows down, and life becomes deep instead of just long. My final reflection. There's a quote I love. Aging is not lost youth, but a new stage of opportunity and strength. That's what I've found to be true. This chapter of life can be the most awake, alive, and authentic you've ever been, if you're willing to live it on purpose. If you're reading this and you're over 60, I want you to know, it's not too late to change. You're not too old to start, and your habits still hold the power to write your future.